Let's turn to 2 Thessalonians 3:14. 2 Thess 3:14. There are some things that we're going to do in our Christianity that's going to be a eyebrow raiser. And sometimes in our fleshly tent, there are some things that we just going to get caught out doing. That's just the way it is. And just like we embarrass our families, our biological families, we can also become an embarrassment to ourselves and to the church. So it's important that we understand that there are some things that if we don't know we should not be doing, somebody needs to help us. So there's a lot of things that Christians can do that the world does that doesn't help the cause. So we have to understand, as we walk in the light as he is in the light, that we have fellowship with him, and that he wants us to understand that we have boundaries. So somebody read 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 14. And 15, 14 and 15.
And if every man obey not all who write this epistle, note that man and have no company with him, that he may be ashamed. Yet count him not as an enemy, but abolish him as a brother.
Okay. What was going on at Thessalonica? What was happening with some of the brothers? What were some of the people up there doing? Those of you who are Bible students. What was happening? Someone start reading from 6 to 15 and you get the gist of what was going on. We'll see what was happening.
In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, we command you, brothers, to keep away from every brother who is idle and does not live according to the teaching you received from us. For you yourselves know how you ought to follow our example. We were not idle when we were with you, nor did we eat anyone's food without paying for it. On the contrary, we worked night and day, laboring and toiling so that we would not be a burden to any of you. We did this not because we do not have the right to such help, but in order to make ourselves a model for you to follow. For even when we were with you, we gave you this rule: if a man will not work, he shall not eat. We hear that some among you are idle. They are not busy, they are busybodies. Such people we command and urge in the Lord Jesus Christ to settle down and earn the bread they eat. And as for you, brothers, never tire of doing what is right. If anyone does not obey our instruction in this letter, take special note of him. Do not associate with him in order that he may feel ashamed. Yet do not regard him as an enemy, but warn him as a brother.
Okay, so what was going on? What was happening? What was happening?
There were a few things happening. There was some false doctrine or some false teaching. There were also some people who, because they were expecting Christ's return, determined that they wouldn't work. And there were some Christians who were just being disorderly. They were thinking they could do whatever they wanted to and still fellowship with the brethren, just as if nothing was wrong.
So why was the instructions given? Why can't I have it my way and come to church on Sunday and give God what he wants? I mean, after all, I'm with me more than I'm with you. What's the big deal? You guys don't see me every day. You only see me on Sunday, and I'm real holy on Sunday. Matter of fact, I'm like you. My holiness extends for 45 minutes to an hour. If I don't come to Bible study at 10 o'clock, I can be real good at holiness for about 2 hours. That doesn't bother me when I'm sitting around people that's holy. But during the week, you know, I got some things that I like to talk about. There's a person I like to be. And kind of figure, hey, everybody else doing. Why can't I do that as a Christian? Erica?
Because the whole function of the body, one of the functions, I guess I should say, of the body is unity. And when people each take their own path, unity is not perfected. And so Jesus, even in his ministry, preached that time and time again to the disciples, because they all had varying interests. And so in John chapter 17, when he's telling them his prayers for them and he's praying to God, most of it was for love, but also unity. And so Sunday, and I think that's like something that I think we don't really understand, because people are too driven into their own selfishness. Like, when you come to church, you should be unified with the body. That's why we all should have the same viewpoint on things. We all should be believing the same thing. We all should be doing the same thing. We shouldn't have one person saying, well, I want to raise my kids this way, and another person saying, but that's outside of God's word. The function has to be unity. And when people are in disorder, it's impossible to get to the same place. And so as a church, our goal is to get to the same place, but we can't take 5 different avenues to get there. And so this whole concept of not fellowshipping people is because people are not behaving in unity, and that disruption of unity really is a disruption of obedience to what the disciples had already learned from Jesus.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else?
If we determine we want to do what we want to do, when we want to do it, that is fine. We just can't do it in the church and be a part of the church, because it makes us no different from everybody else. And as a church, we are set aside. As a church, we are sanctified. And Christianity is not just a Wednesday or a Sunday thing, or if you worship on a Thursday night instead of a Wednesday night. It's not just a couple nights of the week. It is a lifestyle. So that, and Jesus tells us that he's a jealous God. So we can't give him part of our time and then give the rest of it to the world, because God does not accept that part that you give him. He accepts the whole because of his jealousy. So we need to strive for the unity, and we have to strive for the love among ourselves that differentiates us from the rest of the world. In the same way that all the laws that Moses gave to the Israelites separated them as a people from the rest of the world, us as Christians should be that different from the rest of the world.
Certain things, brothers and sisters, about shamefulness are just regular, everyday things that we shouldn't even do in society. That when we do in society is a red light. Like, people will look at you different. Let's just take clothing, for instance, okay? Men and women want to dress where they show their flesh. And when you show your flesh, what are you saying? When you wear certain things and you showing certain parts of your flesh, what are you personally saying about your body? Look at me. You want someone to look at you and to look and see how nice you look. You want to advertise certain things because you want attention. You want to say certain things to the opposite. Well, today I can't even say that. To anybody who will look. You just say, here it is. You know, let's cut to the chase. We don't have to do no talking, but here it is. And this is who I am. When we lose weight, the first thing we do is go get a new wardrobe, and the second thing we do is show some areas that we used to be embarrassed about, because we got rid of that, and now we're back to what we used to be, and we feel good inside. So, you know, we'll wear certain shirts that will show the curves and the muscle tones and stuff like that. And you know, if we get tattoos, we want our tattoos to be shown, so we wear certain length of skirts, pants, shorts to advertise our tattoos. And when we get up here, we'll cut our shirts and we'll show our butterflies, dragons, eagles, or whatever it is that we got going back here. Our sleeves, I mean, you know, when I was a teenager, it was a big thing to have your tattoo right here. So guys will wear cutoffs so you can see your tattoo, and then your tattoo on your forearm. You know, whether it was an anchor, military guys used to get certain things that says certain things, airplanes and stuff like that. So you want to be seen. But that's the way the world is. And you can't, it's funny how when we get baptized, we do this. We look at the world as a contaminant, not realizing that's the way the world is, and that's the way we used to be. We didn't say anything about those things when we were in the world. Now that we're out of that world, we know that there's a different mindset that God wants us to have. And then there are things in that world, functioning in the world, where it is shameful to say certain things and shameful to wear certain things because it is too much. It is too much out there. You know, and then some people will say something to you, you know, you really should cover that, or you really should cover your underclothing, it shouldn't be shown, and stuff like that. Or you really shouldn't advertise the way you're advertising. You shouldn't sit a certain way. And all these things are like that even in the world. So I don't understand why in Christianity we have a hard time with being admonished about certain things. Because even in the world someone will tell you that. Amen? I mean, unless I'm wrong, and I know I'm not. Even in the world, someone from time to time will say certain things to you. But, you know, we drift. We spiritually drift. We come in and out. And, you know, when we get sick, we have a different mindset. Rightfully so. I'm feeling bad. I don't feel like being a Christian. I'm feeling bad. My medical things that are happening to me and my body medically, it just got me off my emotions. I don't know what to say and what to do. And I've been struggling with this for a while now. If you have a chronic illness, or you have an illness that you didn't have over a year, you're tired of praying. You're tired of praying. You feel bad. And that's going to be a reflection of your attitude and the way you conduct yourself. These are the things that we have to guard against. Now, in those passages, these are the things that I brought out, and you can do a word study on these things. And please, take a picture of this. I'll send it to you, those who get it regularly. Those of you who don't have got a smartphone, take a picture of this. And these are the word associations, scriptures to these words right here. Command. Paul is not talking about something that you should come around to. Thank you, Erica, for saying that. He's commanding them to be the same minded. You got to get control of your life. These are some things that you're doing. And if you continue to do those things, if it's a pattern in your life, we must withdraw from you. Now, we're going to be talking for several Sundays on the difference between withdraw and excommunicate. But if you're ashamed, we got to let you know that you're in this category so you can feel different about yourself. So you can do some inner inspection here and say, wait a minute, what's going on here? Because when enough of us come to you and say something to you, you should start saying, okay, let me look at this from a different way and see if what they're saying is true. Because you may be borderlining what's right and what's wrong, what's permissible and what's not, and what's Christian and what's non-Christian. Because there are some things that we talk about in Scripture that the world will accept. Simple as that. They don't have a problem with certain things that you do and certain things you say, but God does, because God has a different advertisement. And when you advertise, what is the big thing about advertising? Advertisers do what for what does advertising do for a person's product?
Sell it. Sell it.
What's the first word?
Sell.
Promote it.
Sell.
Promote it. Promote the product to get you to go to the store and do what?
Buy.
Buy it. Purchase it, right? That's what all companies want. They want you to spend your money on their product. And what they want, Tide wants you to know that when you put one load of clothes in there, 2 cups of Tide will take care of all the soil and dirt in that laundry. And you don't have to worry about it. You can count how many cups you're going to use for your laundry, and you can do your math on how many gallons of Tide that you're gonna have to buy, and you can now move on to the next product. Those dryer sheets, you can, I don't know, 12 in a box, 24 in a box. You can tell how many loads you have every week that you dry your clothes and how many dryer sheets you're gonna use. And after the load is done, you look at your clothes, you don't want no static, you look at your clothes and see whether or not that product works. God is the same way about you and I. He got a message that he wants to send. And his message is not a worldly message, his message is a godly message. So when you and I are publicly, displaying our freedom, sometimes that doesn't work with God. Sometimes our freedom that we are publicly displaying looks like the world to God, and that's where God has a problem. So you and I have to understand that whether we like it or not, there are certain things we can say, certain places we can go, certain things we can do, certain things we can wear, that is going to send a message that's not going to be godly when we open our mouth. And when we get to a certain point in our relationship in the church, bingo. If we don't listen, then the church must withdraw from us. And that's the part of Christianity that human beings don't like. People like to be saved, to be safe, and not go to hell, but don't start telling me what to do. That's where we're going to run into some issues. Because sometimes in the church, we go too far with what we think you should do and what you shouldn't do, instead of letting God say what God has to say and leave the rest to grow. Leave the rest to grow. Okay? And you and I know the difference between what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing. I tell the guys all the time, I made it clear to my boss when she was ordering our shirts. Because the owner came down and he seen that some of us wasn't wearing the company's gear. And so I told her, I shop at a big and tall store. And she didn't understand. She said, I don't understand. One's been married 4 times and had 4 husbands. She said, I don't understand anything about male dress. I said, look at my frame. I said, I'm long. Okay, look at from my shoulders to my waistline. Is that the average guy here? And she said, no. I said, look at from my waistline to the floor. Does that look like an average guy? She said, no. And she thanked me for helping her out with things. I said, now look at each guy that is employed here and look at the way that guy is built. Now the clothes that you have here, the shirts that you have here, I'm going to put on one of those shirts. So she had 4 boxes there, so I put on their average shirt. Now the average shirt looked like it was, I was a monkey. When I put it on, although it was my width size, it wasn't my limb size. And then I took the shirt and I bent over. And the shirt rolled up my back, where my belt line was showing. And so I was expressing to her, these are some of the things that I don't wear, because these are the things that are starting to expose when I'm bending over and stuff like that. And so she said, wow, I never thought about that. So I call that the plumber look. So she started laughing. I said, you ever had a plumber come over your house and do some work for you? And she said, yeah. I said, when he got up under your sink, did he moon you? And she said, oh, that's what that meant. I said, yes. When he bent over, all his underparts started showing because he wasn't wearing the proper length sizes. Like you remember back in the day, and I guess it's back now, hip hugger pants that only gave you so much room that rode on your hip. The pants were designed to go right to your hip and stop right there. And it was only about that much inseam. Okay, I'm helping y'all out here because a lot of us don't know how to dress. That's what the problem is. We don't know how to dress. We just go into the store and we buy what we see on the mannequin, not knowing that when we put it out, because a lot of y'all don't go in the fitting room. You just purchase it and go home with it. I try on everything because I got a different body structure. And when you get home, you don't want to take it back because you want it. And when you put it on, it's showing all kinds of sections on your body that when you walk by the mirror, you say, that's not a good look. But you don't want to take it back. But look what you're saying. Look what you're exposing. You know what I'm saying? So you just don't know how to dress. So she went and purchased some shirts. And for guys like me, the shirts are long. For other guys, she tell them you don't need that shirt because that shirt is gonna look like a skirt on you. You know, I have the regular shirts here for you. You guys didn't complain about that, but big and tall guys like Ellis complained about those shirts. She even did that in jacket sizes for the fall and winter. She said, I'll make sure I get you long jackets for your sleeve length and for your waistline length. Because it doesn't do any good to put on a jacket when my belt line is showing. When it's cold, I bend over, all of my waist is exposed. You see what I'm saying? So I'm helping her out. And I told her, because the biggest thing is why you don't wear the clothes. The clothes don't fit. You know? So we're working together on that. Now, that's just a simple illustration of how I want to look. Okay? You and I can be different in our style and what we want. And some of us don't know how to dress. No one has ever taught us how to dress. And Ellis made an act. Erica got involved in it too, on how to dress, and got a lot of response from people how to outfit themselves and how to dress. A lot of men didn't know how to dress. A man goes to the store, most of the time men's wives go with them. And their wives dress them, because men don't know how to dress. They don't know how to coordinate. A lot of men are colorblind. Men are colorblind. They just don't know how to put a color pattern together because they don't see it. You see what I'm saying? So when you don't know a certain thing, you don't know a certain thing. So when you come to the conclusion that you're wrong and something else is right, then that's where you have to put yourself in check. Disorderly. You know, and I know that you guys got to have a behavior in church. What is that? What is the behavior in church that is not acceptable in church? What are some of the things that we can do that is not acceptable in the church? Paul?
Talking while service. Talking while service.
Talking while service. Let's talk about that. Why is talking while service going on a problem and it's not acceptable?
It's distracting.
It's disruptive.
It's distracting. You pay a speaker to come in the world $30,000 to speak. Let me see some people that I know recently. I think when Erica was a freshman at UConn, Farrakhan came over. I think UConn gave him $30,000 to come to UConn to speak. Now, when the speaker come on, the college paid the money. When the speaker come on, you were to be quiet. Why in church do you talk so much? Do in church? That's a question I'm simply asking because I need an answer. Because remember, I can see you when others can't, because others are sitting forward. I can name you. I can name the row you're sitting in, the one that you sit in every Sunday to talk. What is going on for the 45 minutes that I'm preaching, or when the brother is leading the Lord's Supper, or the song leader is singing, where you are having a general conversation sideways with the person that's sitting next to you? What is so important, and I see some smiling, what is so important that you miss before 10 or 11 that you can't get back 1 o'clock? What's going on in your world that you really got to discuss this during that particular time? Go ahead. I mean, you're talking, so you should be able to just say, you know, something else is, I had to talk about this meatloaf. I got this new recipe, and I just had to share it. You know, and I'm getting a little bit absent-minded, and I had to say it then. You know, come on, tell the truth, Kathy.
I guess when you're a young person, nothing really outside of your scope is all that important. Like anything adult-oriented is not that important to you. So you have your friend sitting next to you, and you're like, "Hey, did you see that new video by Beyonce last night?" Or you know, or did you see something that Nicki Minaj did, or whatever? You know, adult-oriented things are just not that important to teenagers all the time. Not sometimes, but not all the time.
Okay, we're talking about teenagers. You know, some young person can come in and sit down in front of you, then all of a sudden, the two people in the back start talking. And I don't know why some people do this, but people watch people. And when people sit down, they look them up and down, and then they make comments about what they have on. Girl, you see what she got on? Some nice shoes. Where she get their accessories from? Oh, her nails are just crazy. Look at that. Oh, I love that color. Ooh, can't wait. I gotta strip this stuff off. You just, boom, automatically, something just comes into your little world and cling, bing, you're done. No matter where you are, you're now focusing on those things. It happens. Is it right?
No.
Is it respectful?
No.
Is it giving the speaker the respect that he deserves or she deserves?
No.
No, it's not. Is it a time and place for that?
Yeah, afterwards.
Is it doing church?
No.
In the throne room, do you think the angels are talking when God is talking? If they did, they would be with Satan and the demons, right? Because when God talks, everybody listens. Why in church, when the speaker is speaking, you're not listening, but God is talking? That's why most of us at the end of Sunday don't know what the speaker said. But if I sent a survey out and pass it from row to row, tell me what you said at 12:10. Tell me what you said at 12:20 when I was speaking. Tell me what you said, and you can write down what you said, because you don't have a clue what I was talking. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, what happens to your blessings that week?
Don't get it.
What happens on Wednesday when you come to church and I ask a couple of questions and you don't say nothing?
Silence.
You lost because you wasn't even prepared on Sunday, you wasn't prepared Monday and Tuesday, and you definitely don't know what I'm talking about on Wednesday. This stuff is brand new to you because you didn't hear it when it was being spoke on Sunday. What we preach on Sunday, we teach on Wednesday. See? So Paul, we should be ashamed of ourselves that when we in church, we cannot give, and brothers and sisters, honestly, historically, y'all do have the shortest, the Church of Christ for the most, have the shortest worship and service. We're not here a long time. Now, yes, I do get long-winded at times, but I can stick you here to 3. You think 45 minutes is driving you crazy? I can take you to a church where they just getting through probably about 3 and some change. And that man goes on and on and on, and that woman goes on and on and on and on. But you know what? In their church, that second and third row at Bridgeport gets one of these. The brother's preaching. Church of Christ don't do that. Deacons won't get up and go tap you on the shoulder and say, hold this. This is mine. This is not yours. So we told you in the bulletin, and the announcer mentioned this before service. Why is this wrong? See, that's what ushers do. Ushers don't come up to you and kiss you on the cheek. They come up to you and ask you why you are disrupting the service. Give me a raise of hands if you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. So you won't get the second and third row that you get because somebody with gloves on or nursing uniform or a brother with a bow tie or something will walk up to you and get very specific about what you're doing disorderly. You are disrupting the service.
Right.
And they will tell you that they mentioned that to you before the service started. Even in secular world, when people are paying for speakers to come, there are people in the audience that will come. At movie theaters, you can get removed. People will come and say, guess what? I don't think you were listening. And now you paid for nothing. Some people will ask you to leave. And you paid your money for nothing. See what I'm saying? Just something as small as that in church that you think gives you the right, because you want to do what you want to do, it gives you the right to do what you want to do and say what you want to say, because hey, after all, I'm Ellis.
And that goes the same in the courtroom too.
Yeah. Yeah. Judge won't let you get up and say what you got to say. You have a defense for that. Only certain people talk to the judge. There's only 2 attorneys that talk to the judge. Nobody else talks to the judge. I found that out personally. You don't talk to the judge. The judge will tell you that. You think I did all this for 11 to 14 years and wear this robe to have you come in my courtroom and disrespect me? What is that called when you disrespect the judge? What kind of sentence does he, or citation he hand down for that?
Contempt.
Contempt of court. You come in there and start talking and he is hearing somebody other than his voice, you get a fine for that. Get a fine for that. What else, guys? Paul mentioned that, and that's one of the things that, you know, can be an irritant. We should be ashamed about. What about this? Come on, let's get down to this category.
That turns people away.
Talk about people. When you don't work, you have a lot of time on your hands. These people say, Jesus is coming back tomorrow, so I'm going to quit my job. When you don't work, you have a whole lot of time on your hands. And when you have a lot of time on your hands, Satan will fill your time with something. And he will fill your time with things like being disorderly, things like being busybody, things like minding somebody else's business. Why is it that somebody else's business means something to you?
But you don't have none.
Like, what is it about the Stanleys that you need to talk about if you're talking about the Stanleys? Like, what is it that we do that you need to talk about to somebody else? Kathy?
I guess, well, I could say that from the outside, it seems that your life is a whole lot more interesting than mine.
Okay.
And I would like to, you know, be a fly on the wall to see what really goes on in your house when it's just the 4 of you in your house. My life is so boring at home because I have nothing to do. I just want to know what's going on somewhere else.
Okay.
Because I have nothing at home to keep me busy. Even though I have 2 children and a husband to keep up with. So I don't really want to keep up with them because I already know all about them. But now I want to know about you.
Thank you for being honest. God bless you. We're no different from you. Our house doesn't function any different than your house. It's just that we talk a lot. We talk a lot about spiritual things. If things are not right, we get yelled at. If Donna comes home and there's dishes in the sink, who's ever there is going to get yelled at? That's probably me because of my time difference. And then I do the yelling at night when I clean the kitchen up and there's no dishes. I come in, there's dishes, because remember, I go to bed before the house goes to bed. So I say what's fair and what's not fair. We have dialogue. I don't think it's fair that I have to be Benson at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning and you guys get to be the person who's being served at night. You know, I'll say something to Ellis about a fork, because when I left, there was no fork in the sink, or a bowl, or something like that. So our house function like your house function. It's just that we put things in order so things can work better for us in our house. And when you come to our house, you notice that our house is not a museum. But what we do not allow you to do in our house is to destroy our house, because I'm not going paying for stuff that you broke. Okay? I'm gonna ask you for the money.
Yeah.
You broke it. You know? So we do the same thing that other people do, but it's not worth talking about. It's really not. Erica?
Obviously, I'm avoiding that question, but I think one of the main reasons, which this is just something that I've observed, I think one huge reason that people talk about people is like out of jealousy. And I think in a lot of the instances that the Bible mentions being a busybody, it's always in reference to other people, and I think it's a really nasty characteristic to have in the church because, again, it breaks down the unity. And so a lot of times when Paul was cautioning people against jealousy, and even in the book of James when it says, you know, where there's jealousy and selfish ambition, exists, or whatever the verse is, like, people don't realize how serious that is. And it wasn't until, like, I really went to college that I saw how nasty people can get over things that you have, or over, like, the way that you carry yourself, or, you know, your level of confidence. And so when that comes into the church, instead of, like, humbling yourself and saying, like, wow, Nadine, you know, and I'm using her as an example because I've known Nadine since she was my age. Instead of saying, like, wow, Nadine, like, what was it like for you to date? Like, am I going to be jealous that Nadine has a husband and I don't? You see what I'm saying? Like, one is productive and one is negative. You know what I mean? And so it depends on you. It's not, and I think a lot of times when we start talking about being a busybody, your body and your mouth is too busy. Like, you need to slow down, number one, and start looking at life through your eyes and ask for help instead of belittling that person, talking about that person, rallying other people around to kind of feel the way you feel about that person, because all of that diminishes the love in the church instead of uplifting. And I mean, I think even Jesus had to deal with that, you know, with Judas. He wanted what Jesus had. The Pharisees were jealous. That's ultimately why they killed Jesus, because he was able to perform miracles. He had the love of the people. They didn't have any of that. And so when we start talking about the root of why people struggle with that, you know, being busy, and not wanting people, being disorderly, I think a lot of that ties into jealousy, because we're looking at people the wrong way instead of trying to be a better person through the grace relationship that you could have with somebody.
Okay. Anything in this world, brothers and sisters, you can have, especially in America. You can work round the clock. I proved to you that my friend at Sikorsky Aircraft dad did it. He did it. For 20 years, his father worked 2 jobs, and at the end of 20 years, the second job made him a millionaire. You can do it. You can have anything you want, any car you want, any home you want, any vacation you want, any clothes you want. You don't have to look at somebody else's life and be jealous of what somebody else has. If you want a husband, go get one. You want a wife, go get one. You know what I'm saying? Anything in this life you want, you can have. And you know, matter of fact, money will get you what you want. People will be yes people to you, so you can have relationships the way you want. You don't have, and my mom always taught me that. Don't look at what other people have. If that's what you want, go get it yourself. And live your life out of your own window, not somebody else's. I don't have time to look at what you got, because I know in what I have, you had to get up and go get that. You know, even if you played the lottery, you played money to get it. Even if you gamble, you took a risk. So you're doing something, but to sit home and do nothing at all but talk about church people, that's crazy. Dennis, read 1 Timothy 5:13.
And besides, they learn to be idle, wandering about from house to house, and not only idle, but also gossips and busybodies, saying things which they ought not.
Which they ought not. Stop, brothers and sisters, when they call you on the phone, email you or Facebook, and start talking about the church. Stop them from doing it. Say, you know what, this is not a productive conversation. Say to them, sister, you know what, we got to stop doing this. Because you're involved in this. Say, we got to stop doing this. Because what did I say on Sunday? You don't know what's going on in a person's life. If I give you my shoes for 30 days, you'll hurry up and give them back to me before the 30 days are up. You're talking about what's going on in the Stanley's house? You probably couldn't live under my pressure. I give you my pressure, you will give it back to me. And I probably will do the same thing with you. So always understand that about personalities and people. What's going on in somebody else's home may be transparent, it may not be, and it may be a situation where you cannot handle if somebody gave that to you. If you want to help me, don't talk about me, help me. That's what they did in the first century. If you want me to look better, come over to me and help me change my life and my perspective. Don't talk about me. And when someone come over and talk with you, calm down. Calm down, because there could be some things that's going on that's clear in your life. It's clear that you're looking the way you're looking, you're acting the way you're acting. Calm down. Calm down. You know what I'm saying? So you don't have to be a busybody. You don't have to be disorderly. You don't have to go from house to house talking about people. All that stuff that you be doing in your house, Lord knows, if I come in there with a checklist, I ain't gonna say no more. Go ahead, brother. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, if you have an issue with somebody, instead of talking about them, you should talk with them. Especially if it's jealousy, that's the best way to get the jealousy out of your heart. Talk to the person, say, hey, listen, but nobody won't do that.
No.
Nobody's not gonna go like, I'm not gonna go and say, Ellis, I'm jealous, you got some real nice shoes. Ain't nobody gonna do that. You know what I mean? And that's being a man.
Yeah.
That's being a man. Say, hey, listen, if you admire something, that's one thing, but if you admire something and behind it, you don't like because the person has it, that's really bad.
The guys used to tease me all the time at Pace about the way I dress. And so they said it in front of the owner's son. So the owner's son said, Ellis, get his job done. You know what I said to them? I work. I just don't get into my work. Y'all get into y'all work. Y'all roll all over it. Y'all lean all on it and everything. Wipe it all over you and everything. I don't do that. I go ahead and do my job and that's it. That's the difference between you and me. You do your job different than me. But the job is done. Because the owner's son just verified that. If I didn't do the job, I would be fired. So stop looking at the way I do my job and how I look doing my job. The job is getting done because I get paid every week. Again, that's none of your business. And there are times, brothers and sisters, according to 2 Thessalonians 3:14, we have to tell you that. Someone has to come to you and say to you, you're being disorderly. You don't want to work. People have to come to you and tell you that because you're showing a pattern of that. Okay, you always asking for something, but you never bring anything. Somebody has to say that to you. So you can be ashamed of your behavior. Because you may be in a pattern. You may be in a pattern where, you know what? Yeah, I'm more of a taker than I am a giver. And you may be in that little small portion of the congregation that needs that help. Someone to help you get going. Okay? Anybody else? Anybody else? We struggle with this. And remember, guys, the church had problems. I mean, come on. Look at Timothy. Look at Thessalonica. Look at Rome. Look at, whenever a bunch of people get together, what we're doing then is bringing all our personalities in. That's why it's important to you to ask me, how did Erica get to where she is now when she was this age? What did y'all do? And I'll tell you what someone told me what they did. Because I think it's clear, whether you want to admit it or not, something happened when you was raising her, when they're telling you off now. When they're telling you off. I think something happened. And you can honestly say, if you examine your life as a parent, I did something wrong. Because even in the world, it is not right that when they become teenagers, they tell you off as a parent. And guess what? When you don't teach them authority, parents, when they grow up, they're not going to respect me. When they get on the bus with me, they're not going to respect me. When they're sitting across the desk from me, they're not going to respect me. You know why? Because they didn't respect you. And they're going to always be looking for a job. They're going to always have bouts with people. They're going to always think it's somebody else and not them. Why? Because you didn't teach them right. You let them raise themselves. And now it shows. Ask David, go spend some time in his life and see what happened to his children when he didn't do what he's supposed to do as a father. They grew up to be rotten men. So think about it. Think about it. There's a lot of work to be done in our homes. Honestly, there's a lot of time that we can spend in our homes doing our own work, minding our own business. And when you need help, raise your hand. Say, I need some help here. This is getting out of hand. I can't handle it. These kids are just going bump wild. How can I need help. Can someone help me? Because parenting is not easy. Marriage is not easy. Being a teenager is not easy. My mom and dad didn't know who I was when I was 16. My mom and dad didn't talk to me. The only thing saved me is that my mom and dad was very disciplined people. I was afraid of my mother and dad, but they didn't have dialogue with me. My dad didn't sit down at the edge of the bed and talk like I talked with Erica or Ellis. My dad wasn't a talker. He came out of that generation of men where they didn't talk, and they didn't talk to their sons. My mom did the best she could in talking and being a talker for my dad and a talker for her. But there are some things I needed to hear from my dad as a man that my father didn't give me. So when I got to church, I listened to those older men and I, honed in on the things that they had to say about family life because I didn't get that growing up. And those things were important to me. And I imitated those things based on the Bible. But not everybody's like me. You reap what you sow. I'm telling you guys now. I'm telling you guys now. If she is not trained, she's going to train herself. She's going to train herself. And you're going to live long enough to see it. Because remember, time goes by very fast. You look around, 6 years has gone by, 8 years have gone by, 10 years have gone by, and she's a whole different person now. And you're trying to figure out, how did that happen under my roof? Well, it's no longer your roof anymore. It's hers. She's telling you what to do. Did Jesus tell God what to do?
No.
I came to do whose will?
Fathers.
I didn't count it equal. It was his will, not my will, to be done. He always elevated the Father. Always. So just, think about it. But we have to talk about these things because these things occur. These things happen on Sunday, Paul. Back there on that, we talk about everything. Back there on those few rows. And the same people do the same thing every Sunday. Why? When you say something to them, it don't change because that's what they came here for. They didn't come here to be spiritual. They didn't come here to be involved in the service. They didn't come here to be about God's business. They came here to talk. And they talk every day. Some of you guys go home and the first thing you do is get on Facebook. Get on Facebook. First thing you do is get on the phone. Because you're talkers. You like conversating. You like talking with one another. I look at some of you, you're doing this. When it comes on, when it's alert, you should have never alerted on your phone because when you hear it, you got to respond to it. You can put it in the glove compartment. You be all over the road. Because if there's alert, it's got to be somebody important. You got to answer it. You got to answer it. Put it in the trunk. This guy, talking on the phone, he came this close to me. I'm driving down Route 8, and he was talking. And I looked at him, I seen him. I'm the professional driver, he's not. I moved over, and then he looked out of the corner of his eye and jumped and got over in his lane. But he never did put this down. He never did put this down because that conversation was important. What did we do 10, 15 years ago when cell phones were? We still drove crazy, right? But we didn't drive like we're driving now.
We have Big Mac in one hand and
my long dog, mustard and onion on. You know what I'm saying? Things always distract us. You can't stay focused. You know what I'm saying? One thing leads to another, and every generation produces different things. So just think about it. It's going to get a little thicker than this, brothers and sisters. In our preaching and our Bible studies. You know it is. We're going to talk about, excommunicating people. We're going to talk about, just fellowship with people. And we're going to say why. We're going to talk about the process and all those things. Sometimes these processes help people and help people to understand I'm in a bad place spiritually. I don't need to be good. Let me act right, get my life right. And then sometimes people, just the very fact that you're saying something about what I'm doing, I'm going to blame it on you and not on me. And they're going to dog the church out. They're going to get very specific about members who come to them. See, and you know that. Some of you are not going to talk to people about their sinful life when they decide they want to do what they want to do and not be a Christian. You're going to send somebody else to do it because you don't want that person to talk about you. So you say, send Ellis. Send Ellis, let them talk about Ellis. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to dog me out, and they're going to tell other people. I don't go to that church no more because of what Ellis said to me. Because see, I came and said this to you. So you ain't going to tell them that. You're not going to tell them what you were doing. You're going to tell them what I said to you. Because you don't want to come here no more. And then they're going to think, oh man, that's that kind of church. But see, you're not going to never tell them that you're sleeping around. You got a girlfriend and you're married. And I seen you. You're not going to tell them those things. You see what I'm saying? You're not going to say that, but you're going to say, he said something to me. I don't like it. If that's Jesus, I don't want to have nothing to do with it. That's what he's going to say. And then people are not like me, or not like Patrick, or not like Dennis, or whoever it's going to be, because it's going to be somebody. And so if they got those kind of people there, I'm not going there. People say it all the time. But you're not going to tell them about your sinful behavior. Because there are some things that you can do in church and be ashamed of and get back in standing with church. And then there's some church things you do in church, well, we got to withdraw from you. And you got to know it. You got to know the reason why we're not calling you, texting you, Facebooking you, tweeting with you, or any of those things. We just not having anything to do with you as church members. And you got to know why. That's a disservice if we don't tell you why. Okay, are you going to move out? You're living with him and you're having sex with him. Are you going to move out? Are you going to move out now? No, I'm not moving out now. Wrong answer. Are you going to tell your mistress she's no longer your mistress? No, I love her. Wrong answer. Remember, your response will determine what we do as a church. Kathy?
Even if the other person does tell both sides of the story, they would try to minimize their side of it and elevate your side of it, still making you the bad guy. I mean, yeah, I'm cheating on my husband with so-and-so over here, but Ellis said this, that, and the third to me, and I ain't like the way he said it, so I'm not going back over there. So, you know, it doesn't even matter what I'm doing, it's what he did.
Yeah. It's always going to be what I did. And I came with flowers, I came with meatloaf and gravy, chicken, I came with everything. Don't think that I go into people's homes and I come with a flamethrower, you know, or ammonia or bleach or something. Don't think that I come as a devil or I come with everything, a bouquet of roses, I come with everything. I come with syrup, everything. And just sit down with you and we have a great time. And I say, oh yeah, by the way, you know something? You know, I sweeten it up because I know what you're going to say. I know the attitude you're going to get. And you're going to still roar. And you're going to still blame me because you're not going to leave that woman. You're not going to leave that man because you already crossed the line. You already crossed the line. Remember, David's situation with Bathsheba was what?
Wrong.
It was wrong. It was wrong. He could have turned it off he could have turned it off if he would have turned around. But once he said, go get, his passion arose. And when he got her in his circle, he didn't turn back.
On his turf.
And because of that, what happened after that? She was pregnant. Her husband was killed. The kingdom was turned upside down because everybody's seen it.
Yeah, because he called for her to come to the house. He got her pregnant. Then he had to go and commit murder to cover up her being pregnant.
Yeah.
When he should have just turned around and not even looked at her in the first place. Look, but don't keep looking.
Who should have died? Who should have died? Under the law, who should have died? David should have died. And remember, Bathsheba was innocent. Bathsheba was innocent. Don't do that. Don't say she shouldn't have been bathing in her own bathroom, on her roof, in her own tub. Don't say that. That's her roof. That's not David's roof.
And with all the attendants that she had, they couldn't call a circle or have a screen or something around her?
I don't care what she did. She could have been bathing in a lake. Men need to control themselves. Let's stop making a problem, making the women a problem with men. I'm tired of hearing that from men in society. I don't care what you wear. I must maintain control. What did Job say in 31:31? I must control my eyes. I shouldn't look at you that way. Get my eyes off your anatomy and keep it moving. I'm sick of guys doing that, talking about what she was doing. That's none of your business she was another man's wife. Make me sick with that. And I tell men that all the time. Keep your mind out of the books. Stop clicking and going on those sites so you don't get out of control. I guess y'all see I have a passion for that, huh? somebody. Makes me sick with that. I'm not gonna close in prayer, obviously.
Just before you go into prayer, you know, what we're talking about is the church here. You know, and I think it's important for us to make that this distinction, that we're talking about how we should behave in the church. It's not saying that people out there in the world, that we should not have contact with them because they do certain things, because that's what God wants us to do. He wants us to have fellowship with those people so that we can bring them into Him. But people in the church ought to know better. People in the church, we shouldn't be just like the world. So the only time we should be interacting with people with those sins and so on are the people who are outside who we're looking to pull in.
I don't think you needed to say that, simply because y'all know that. Y'all know that this study is about who?
You should know it.
But you know that. Y'all know that. Don't talk about you should know that. Y'all know when we in church, we're talking about church. Remember, this was written to Christians. People in the world, like I stated before, in the beginning. This is what the world does every day. People do this every day, and it's normal for them to do it. It's their behavior, y'all. When you was in the world, you did that, right? But sometimes your worldly attributes that you dug in the ground sometimes start sprouting up, and you start doing those things again. And that's where we're wrong. We're wrong. Our lives are condemning the world because we no longer do these things. But when we start doing these things, we act like the world. Mm-hmm. We have to minister to the world. We have to talk to the world who are doing these things. But when we start doing these things, we're acting just like the world. We're no different than them. And that's when what Nadine says applies. Because Jesus said in his prayer in John 17, I'm not asking you, God, to take them out of the world, because that's impossible. They got to illuminate it. But when you and I start acting like the world, we're wrong. Don't get mad at God. We're wrong. Okay? So when we're talking about these issues in church, we're talking about Christianity. We're talking about one another. So in the world, I want you to leave here thinking that I'm talking about them. Like Paul said, what do I have to do to the Corinthian church? He said, what do I have to do with them on the outside? I'm talking to us on the inside. Our own behavior, and you know that behavior is not right. Y'all understand that? Don't look at me like some of you are looking at me like this is not you. This is all of us. At some point, we have responded when we shouldn't about a particular thing. You know what? Let's stop this now. Like Erica was talking about, with jealousy. Some of us do look over at our neighbor's yard and say, man, I envy that grass. But you don't want to go out there like your neighbor did. You just want it to sprout up. Okay? At some point, we get to these categories and we mess up. He's not talking about disown us as brothers and sisters, but he said withdraw from us, from that particular person, so that person can see that what they're doing is wrong. Now there is a category that we're going to get into where we're done. This is not for you to be ashamed. This is for you to be cut off. You, the church, me, you. Not the world, you, the church. That when you start doing those things, you got to be cut off. Because what they see you doing every single day and what you profess to be doing on Sunday is making the church look bad. Okay? And it gets ugly. It gets ugly. I can give you a whole lot of stories. Remember that time during Phil Donahue where that lady sued the Church of Christ in Tennessee? She was having a relationship with her boyfriend. It became public. The elders went over. People went over in the church, went over, told, you really can't be living like this. Husband's a Christian, she's a Christian. She just fell in love with this guy. And she was hanging out with this guy, having a good time, but she was coming to worship. She said, I feel as though God has forgiven me. I'm trying my best. No, you're not. Because they asked her to leave the dude alone. Put him in the wind. She said, I can't do that. I'm in love with him. So she sued them for harassment. Mark Ornberger had a case. Kevin Ornberger's son, as a lawyer, had a case where the member sued the church because he was disfellowshipped. He lost the case, but it was very ugly. It drew attention in the community to the Church of Christ. And Mark said he felt uncomfortable as a lawyer defending the church because it became public. Remember Paul told the Corinthians about that? Suing one another? It gets ugly because you get mad. You just won't walk away with your sins. You want to get mad and you want to punish us. It's unfortunate. All right, Patrick.
I was just gonna, yeah, let's go.
Oh, go ahead. You can go ahead.
I was gonna say
Make it
one thing
happen.
too is that we have to understand is the church in Thessalonica and the church at Corinth were mostly made up of pagans. So when they came to Christ, their attitude wasn't the same as the Jewish people who had a law and had some religious background that they had to come in with.
Amen.
So their mindset was a little bit different in that, why can't we continue what we're doing? But the church didn't stop it. They didn't say this is not according to what the word of Jesus Christ is saying.
Yes.
And it became something that was overwhelming within the church and got all the way back to Paul, all the way across the country, across the known world, where he had to write them back saying, listen, you've got to change these things because it's even evident to me over here that people are talking about how you're handling your business in the church being wrong. So what I'm trying to say is sometimes we come to Christ with a lot of baggage when we first are baptized, and it's going to take a little while for us to get rid of some of those things. But we got to be working on them. We got to get rid of those things. It's not an excuse. It's not something that we have to, should be working on for 10, 15, 20 years. Some of those things in those categories, because that's not what's pleasing to God. We've got to make sure that we definitely get rid of those things in our attitude if we're going to consider ourselves to be a part of Christ's body. And that's one of the things that the early church wasn't working on. And that's why when you look back at the book of Revelation, it says, I'd rather you, be hot or cold, so I know which way you're going to go. I can condemn you because you're not doing what's right, but you can't be sitting in the middle of the fence, because with Jesus, you've got to serve one master or the other. And that's how it is with our relationship with God. So, we all fall short in a lot of things that we do, but when these things are consistently, progressively a part of our mindset, and we don't want to change them, and we refuse to change them, and that's when these things come into play, that we need to realize that we really are not pleasing God. And that's where the rest of your lessons are going to go, because now there's a set of rules now that God has put in place, because he cannot deal with sin. And he can't deal with sin in the church, because we are supposed to be the bride of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's the way it is, and we got to understand that. We have to be long-suffering in church toward people. We have to, because it took a person 40 years or 50 years or 30 years or 20 years to become who they are. They're not going to change overnight. It's not going to change overnight. And one of the ministers told me about a case in Massachusetts of a guy who was a homosexual guy, became a Christian, and he just still had a desire to fellowship with men. But that's who he is. He's comfortable around men. So the men had to be cautious about their relationship with him to help him to grow and to get him acclimated to the rest of the congregation. Now it lasts for about 12 years, I think the minister said. And then his draw to male bondage and stuff like that pull of the world kept calling him, and he eventually left the church and went back to that lifestyle. But that's who he was for so many years. You know what I'm saying? And now you have to work with him on his level. When a prostitute come into the church from prostitution, her whole wardrobe is provocative, because that's who she is. So you have to give her a chance to get new clothes before you start criticizing her on Sunday. See, be a little patient and loving and slow to some of the things that you say about people, because you don't know their circumstances. Okay, single people, a guy or a woman that is on a dating scene and became a Christian. Remember, they like a social life. They like going out on Friday and Saturday night. You don't, but that's their lifestyle. Give them a chance to disconnect from those kind of social behaviors, where when they went out, they partied, they drank, they had sex, they got up the next morning and went home. Calm down, my Lord. Calm down as a church and give people an opportunity to inwardly change. And you help them along the way. They will get there in the name of Jesus. But don't condemn them, cut them off because they acting like that. It takes some time with people. So sometimes it takes a lot of time with people because they just don't know how to behave. Okay? They don't know any other way to behave. So love them and put your arms around them and help them in their journey as a church. That's what you should be doing. Help them in their journey. And the older women, talk to them. You women that are in the middle tier, talk to them and help them to become better women. You know, all these categories fit us because on the outside, we live a whole different life. On the inside, we have a whole different life to live. Okay, so remember it in that respect. There's a life that we live out there, and then we have a life in here that we are growing to live. Okay? All right? Some of you guys are fortunate to go from 13, 12, 10 to the church. I'm first generation Christian. I went from the world to the church. Some of you guys just went from the pew to the water. You have a whole different perspective. And thanks be to God that you had that kind of transition. I'm of the world. I'm of the mindset of the world. I know the old elements. And like I tell you all the time, I love being me as a sinner. So I have to watch some things. Okay? Because I remember what it felt like. Okay? All right, Patrick. Unless there's anybody else? Okay, brother.
Go to our Father.